Is today the day we finally get an update and clarity on the manager's situation? Well, apparently it is. Pochettino in talks with Manchester United, the reported favourite to replace Ten Hag. What is the latest on that? What's Fabrizio Romano said about Poch to Manchester United? He's just come in with an update. We'll also talk about Manchester United's transfer plans, their transfer targets, breaking down the transfer targets for each position, a new striker signing, a Premier League proven striker. Who could that be? We'll talk about the transfer outs, we'll talk about Greenwood, we'll talk about more. So give me 10 minutes of your time. I'm going to get through all the latest Manchester United news, transfer news, updates and more. Jamie Jackson says clarity on Ten Hag's future is expected today. Whether that will occur, it's unclear. He's basically covering all bases because he doesn't know, but he's a journalist and he wants to get some clicks by saying it's expected today, but I don't actually know if it's expected today, if that will actually happen, but it's expected today. Nonsense, but it is actually expected today by multiple sources. I mean, I'd be very surprised if it doesn't come today. It was expected this week. It was told it was going to come Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Let's hope it comes today. Now, obviously, the latest rumor going about is that Pochettino and Tuchel, obviously the two favourites, and INEOS have been recently in lots of talks with Poch, and because he's just been sacked, it may have been a bit more complicated to bring him in. We know that INEOS rate Poch, and let's talk about this. Let's talk about what Romano has said on this. Romano said this: Mauricio Pochettino is another coach who doesn't feel he needs to take some time before the next step. He wants to return as soon as possible, so I'm sure the case Manchester United go for him, he'd be more than ready to restart and go back into business immediately. But again, at the moment, the priority for Man United is to decide on Ten Hag, inform Ten Hag, and then eventually go for another coach. Now, Man United have talked to other coaches. I think Man United have gone for another coach in the case that they sacked Ten Hag because they've been having talks with other coaches. But what I like about Romano is, unlike every other journalist out there, he's not pretending to know anything. He's saying, of course, if they go for Poch, he'll like the job. They've had talks with Poch, we know that, but he's not saying, yeah, they're going to sack Ten Hag and go for Poch like some sources are. He's not saying if they're going to sack Ten Hag or not because he doesn't know. He's not going to say who the number one candidate is or not because he doesn't know. Yes, Fabrizio Romano's not adding anything particularly new or particularly interesting, you could say, but at least he's not one of those journalists that is just saying any old thing for clicks and pretending they know. Like Jamie Jackson, a decision's expected today, but who knows if it's actually going to come today. You might as well not write anything. Fabrizio Romano's saying, well, obviously, if they want Poch, he's go to United, he's open to the job. They've had talks with Poch, but he's saying, as of now, Man United need to decide on Ten Hag, inform Ten Hag, and then go for another coach. I'd assume we decided on Ten Hag. I'm assuming we're informing him maybe 9 a.m. this morning, and I assume we've had conversations with other coaches. Should be sacked, Ten Hag would be quite ready to bring in the next coach. And I think Mauricio Pochettino will be on that list and willing to come to United along with Thomas Tuchel. I also think there could be a few surprise names there. Do apologise if we got a slight lag spike, but I'm fed up of talking about the manager situation. Absolutely fed up. So I do want to talk about transfers, transfer targets, and break down what we've got from Tier 1 information coming in on Manchester United's transfer plans. And then we also will get into some other reports on Joao Neves and the striker situation. So, centre-back. The main centre-back priority is Branthwaite, and United wants to get him for 50 million. He's a priority signing, and due to the lack of competition and Everton's needs to sell, INEOS believe they can get a deal done for 50 million and do it before June 30th. It was also said INEOS believe they can get a deal done for 50 million. If not, they'll walk away and look at Gay, Inacio or Hjulmand for the left centre-back role. Having looked at Inacio, it does worry Everton because they need to raise money for FFP. I think realistically, once Man United has sold maybe a Greenwood or one player to bring in that 25 million, like a Casemiro, they'll go for Branthwaite and get that done. Right centre-back, Todibo, 34 million. It's said it's an easy deal to do, but it may depend on a few sales if Branthwaite's attained first. Lenny Euro, Anselimo and Bremer also being watched. United love Todibo. The reason there's not much links between Man United and Todibo recently is because United are very comfortable they can get that deal done with INEOS' relation with Nice, and they can just go to that later and just get Branthwaite or what is seen as more difficult deal to do out the way. Like, Chelsea really pushing for Elise. They may get Branthwaite, and then they may get Elise, and then they may come back to Todibo and back to, obviously, DM, and then back to left-back later on. There's just some deals that they see as priority, and I think centre-back is that. Lenny Euro, Anselimo, Bremer also being watched. Chalobah also being watched as well. Forgot to mention him in there. Left-back, Kirk has his first choice, apparently, but Bournemouth will make it difficult. Other options include Aït-Nouri, Bard, Matson, Loco. Also, the Girona left-back as well, who I did not include. So those definitely ones to keep an eye on. They also like Nets as well. DM to CM, which for me is the most important position, and I hope we get this right. I hope we get 2 additions here. But it was said Hjulmand and Fofana are the most admired, with initial contact already taking place. Joao Gomes and Onana are also seen as options. Joao Neves is loved, but likely out of price range. INEOS want 2 midfield signings, but that depends on outgoings. if Casemiro goes, if Eriksen goes, potentially if McTominay goes, there'll be 2 midfield signings. At the moment, it looks like 1. But if the funds are there, if they get the money through outgoings, they definitely will go for 2. Joao Gomes is really admired. Fofana's admired. Hjulmand's admired. Onana's admired. Joao Neves, they get him if he was under 60 million. Joao Neves and Branthwaite are like 2 probably players they love the most, but it really depends on the price. But I'm a big fan of Joao Neves. I mean, for me, if you brought in Joao Neves and a Hjulmand, or Joao Neves and someone more defensive than a Fofana that's taller, that would be brilliant as well. But let's talk about wing. Now, Elise is the priority, but that depends on the sale of Greenwood and Sancho. We're going to talk about that. Juventus and for Greenwood in a second. Borussia Dortmund is saying Sancho's not a priority. They can only get him on loan, despite hyping him up this whole time. They don't actually want to buy him, which is really, really annoying. I do think that we can maybe sell Sancho for 30 million and maybe sell Greenwood for 30 million. But because we're Manchester United, clubs will think, oh, we can get this guy on loan. Whereas if we were Chelsea or Manchester City, you could actually sell. I think we'd get 60 million for both players, which would cover Elise's release clause. If we don't get Elise, Desiree Doué is one we're looking at, and he is my second choice after Elise. He's not ready made now, but I think he could be an absolute baller. Nico Williams and Neto also admired by the club, but they're cautious of Neto's injury record and the fact that he's a little bit overpriced by Wolves. Bakayoko would be a good option. Suli would be a good option, but we've not been reliably linked to those players as well. Doué is in a second choice to Elise, and on the striker front, basically it said it's unlikely that Man United will spend big unless many outgoings happen. Acuna is the most liked along with Sesko, but likely too expensive in the £50+ million range. Girassi, Brobby and Tony are probably the most likely according to reports. And personally, if I think INEOS are keeping the striker targets quiet and a new one could pop up soon. We don't have much clarity or much info on the striker targets, but I'd assume those 3 players are the top 3. Interestingly, what we did get on striker target news from Mike McGrath is that Manchester United want to sign a Premier League experienced striker. I'd assume Ivan Toney's one that we're looking at. Maybe Hwang of Wolves could be another one that we look at as well. Potentially Evan Ferguson as well, but he's not had a good season. I'd assume they're probably the main 3 we're looking at. I don't think Solanke is it. I mean, I'd like us to go for Cunha, but I think he's out of price range. It was also said from a Record Sport guy that George Mendes brought in an offer of around 51 million for Man United for Benfica's Joao Neves, but the club turned it down. They wanted 85 million. Look, I don't know if we've made bids for Joao Neves or not, but I think if Man United could get Joao Neves for 51 million, they would be bidding 51 million to get Joao Neves. I think Man United are the type to bid 51 million for Joao Neves, 55 million for Joao Neves, 60 million for Joao Neves, leave it on the table, walk away, go elsewhere. Kind of like they do with Yusuf Fofana. They put a few bids in to get him on loan last season. Monaco were like, nah, just to see if they changed their mind about that as well. Guys, please do hit the like button. Of course, subscribe down below if you're new, and let's get into our next story. So this is coming from Gazzetta, and I'm going to be honest, this isn't a very reliable source, so do take it with a pinch of salt. A lot of unreliable sources are writing stories about Greenwood to Juventus and Greenwood to Barcelona as sort of a little bit of an attempt to get a little bit more interest in Greenwood this summer, because Man United are reportedly struggling in genuine interest for Greenwood this summer, apparently. But it was said Manchester United's Mason Greenwood has said yes to Juventus and shown great interest in a potential move to the Italian club. Man United want 30 to 34 million for Greenwood, which Juventus consider excessive. Hence, they're studying including players in a potential deal like Samuel Illing Jr. and obviously Kazea is another name to pay for. For me, I just want cash. I want cash so we can go and put it on Elise. Pure FFP profit, cash, put it on Elise. That's personally what I think we should do. That's personally what I think we should see. I think we should be able to get 30 million for Greenwood. When you look at the price that people are going for in the market, we should be able to get 30 million for Greenwood. I know there's external circumstances. I know there's 1 year left on his contract, but he had a good season at Getafe. He's young. He was once like a 70, 80 million pound player. I think we'll probably get mugged off and do a deal for 25 million, but I think we should be able to get 30 million for him, and we should be able to get 30 million for Sancho, but we're just so bad at selling that. It is worrying as well. I think INEOS are really going out their way to try and get Greenwood and Sancho off the books, but no one's really that interested in buying them. They kind of know we need to sell them and we're desperate to sell them, and I think people are thinking, well, actually, we could probably get a loan deal here and get that sorted as well, because at the end of the day, Man United don't want both players at the club next season, so if they don't get the permanent move they want, they probably will send them out on loan, which I think is why people are just sort of waiting around for that as well. But Jamie Jackson, is basically saying, oh, we're going to get an update on Tunnel Street today, but actually it's unclear if we will get an update. he's basically just absolutely waffling as well. And look, I'll be honest, guys, I think INEOS are not telling anyone what they're doing. And if Ten Hag stays, I wouldn't be shocked. All the media keeps saying is Ten Hag's going to go, Ten Hag's going to go. But the media, the reliable sources, said we haven't learned anything since before the FA Cup final. And before the FA Cup final, they were going to sack Ten Hag. They could have potentially changed their mind. And the media don't know that. And Ten Hag could be staying. I think, do not act like Ten Hag is going until they announce it's gone, because I don't think the media knows much at all. I don't think the media knows anywhere near as much as they'd like to know. And I think they're guessworking. Anyway, thank you for watching. See you next time.